Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. In this video I will be showing you how to use the entire blueprint library and I'll basically create an entire functioning rail network. So to start things off, I'll empty my inventory and I'll leave cheat mode. Actually, before I do that, there are later. Right, there we are. I'm getting some basic stuff delivered. And we are going to build our first depot. And we're going to place the power pole at the bottom center, cornering 4 chunks. I'm not sure whether I mentioned this before or not, but this print is different from all the other squares in that the central power pole of the square cannot be on a corner if you also want the top of the rails to be at a corner. You'll see that in a second. Right, since this is the big square, we're going to use the spacious version of the depot. And very important, right at the start, we're going to place down one of these. While that's going, I'm going to set down some trains. We want, let's say, 4 builder trains. One's already in station. We can't place these on ghost, sadly. Okay, gotta wait, I guess. State. Blueprints being filled out slowly. They're almost complete. Right. Okay, this is our first train. We're going to put in automatic mode. And we're going to prepare the other trains. There we go. And that's actually it, no more necessary. Aside from setting the, because this will keep jumping until, what's going on here? Okay, so first of all we need to delete the memory. I'm guessing I might have put this down too early before the remote was finished building, both the remotes, so they probably send endless check marks to the system. And we were left with that. It's very easy to just delete the memory for a moment. All right. Now then, let's see. We want a loadout and we want the one for the first step so we can start building our outpost. There we go. And we'll prepare the go signal for the trains over here. And with that we're done here, we're just waiting for the train to finish loading. Oh, right. Don't need this. It's probably, yeah, that's fine. All right. What am I missing here? A couple things. Some fuel. 10 of the inserters. That might be a bit of an issue. What's happening here? Did I at some point... No, it's exactly 40 stacks. And we do have space for more inserters. They're just not being... the inserter here isn't moving back. No, it's got something in its grasp. Not sure what's going on here. This is the first time I see them getting stuck like this. Oh well, 40 inserters should actually be enough. That's the wrong one. Right, so we're going to first get our items, and we're going to plant a roundabout at the end of the tracks so that the trains have a place to turn around. Here. And let's have a corner here. Right, there we go. And a little bit upwards. And let's plant a seed. All right. Batteries are almost empty. Should have just about enough juice for this. So we built our first step. And once the station is active, we tell our train to park at the depot. And we place the bots in here. And just split up our load. All right. We need to order the second step, and I appear to have slightly messed up in the blueprint. That should not be step 1, that should be step 2. So we're going to fix that right now. There we go. Step 1, upgrade. Yeah, all right. And let's try that again. This is what we want to see, because in step 1, we obviously need the train for step 2. Right. And over here we have the trains finished building, so we can just have them set on automatic now. Right, there we go. And once this train has finished loading, it'll come to us. Good. And as you can see, this dummy station is currently turned off. Whoops. Right, because our outpost station is actually turned on. In that case, we don't need the dummy station active. Or rather, we don't even want it to be active, because otherwise the trains will just keep driving circles down there, as it's the closest station. Right, have the train unload. And while that's happening, we're planting the actual station. Step 2, I mean. And this train may leave. And we'll have to make sure that this is why I placed it this way, because I would have probably forgotten to activate this train right now. And it's not a serious issue as long as I think about it eventually, but we want to get this done as soon as possible so the train enters the station and has reserved the station for itself, or has bound itself to this station. It's not exactly reserved. And we are going to consider what we want to do next. So in this station, I want to build a bunch of solid loading stations. I'm going to adjust the loadout. Right, looking good enough. We'll send that back to base, along with, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trains that we want. And then we'll get prepared on the build. So we need the stackers for the first resource. The trains will take care of that. We will mean... what's this? Oh, I just looked for a moment for me as if there were stations there. It's actually just circuited rail signals. I'm sorry. So we're going to load, because that's the default I've prepared. We're just going to load iron plates here. We need to wait a second for the station to be built. And while that's happening, we're going to check out the Outbound Stacker, see if everything's set up properly. This is a loading station, so we need to copy this setup over. And we need to make sure that these guys are named correctly. It's a load station, not an outload, not an unload. And it's for iron plates. And I tend to go with singular names, not plural. We can just copy this over. Right. We haven't heard the chime in a while. There we go, actually, just in that moment. All right. Let's take care of the naming. This is iron plates. And more iron plates. And we're actually already done here. We just need to copy this entire thing. Two, 3, 4, and 5. And now comes the part that I hadn't explained in all the introductionary videos. There is a finisher, I called it, right? A dummy waypoint station. I have 2 different versions of these. So one looks just like this. The hook has to point towards the incoming part, and you just line it up with the power pole, and you can print it just like this. But I have another version in here, and this one also has these wavy rail lines, right? And these are there so that you can afterwards add more stations down here, right? So you need to add one of these dummy stations for every bundle of stations that you have. It doesn't matter how many stations of these are, but at the end of one bundle, you need to finish it off with one of these dead dummy stations. So just like this one, this is going to have the same name. What's going on here? Weird. All right, so iron plate load waypoint, that's okay. You're also going to make sure that we have the right one here. We can't click on it yet because the constant combinators haven't been built yet, but it says here for L, basically for load, or for U, unload. And all you need to do is you need to copy this one over to get the right setting. Simple as that. And we can leave. So what this does is once all the stations have filled up with 3 trains each, therefore all their waypoint stations have disabled, the trains would no path because they wouldn't have a station to go to anymore. So instead of doing that, I have added at the end a dead dummy station that can never be approached by any train, right? So once all the other ones are disabled, this one will enable, but the trains can't actually go there because these 2 rail signals will always be red. So the train will wait here, trying to go down there, but can't, and it will switch to this station as soon as a spot opens up, right? So what happens is that the trains basically bunny hop down the approaches to all the stations, going further and further down every time they can't enter one of the stations. But at the final station, they have to wait until they can actually enter the station. Okay, while this is building itself, we are going to set up the loadout for the next outpost. So obviously that's once again step 1, and we don't need any of this. We don't need any explosives either. And the rails, yeah, that should be okay. Right, so it should be maybe 1 more delivery, maybe 2, I guess. 1 more delivery. And it's really just missing the fuel. Going to ignore that. We're going to send the train off. Now that the train is finished, we're going to send back the loadout for this station, and there we go. 1 train will come in with the loadout for the next station. And since we don't want that train to leave before we can get in it, and we don't want it to be unloaded either in this station, we're going to disable the inserters. And now we just wait until the train gets here. And while we're doing that, I am going to give the stations what they need, which is some materials. There we go. All right, finish with that. And we still just gotta wait for the train. See what's happening. We get stuck again. Yep, and we did. 250. So we still have space for the big power poles. It's just not dropping them in. Therefore it can leave. Right, so the train is now stuck here. It cannot leave until I actually use it. In this case, I'm just going into manual mode because I'm going to drive it to build more rails and stuff like that, right? Right. And since we're no longer needing this station right now, we're going to have a trash cycle run. All right, we need the materials. There we go. Let's set up a roundabout for the demonstration purposes. Roundabouts with high traffic are usually problematic, but if you use my station's blueprints properly and you keep in mind which lane the train wants to be in to go from loading to unloading stations, so that you don't have to switch in any way, so you don't have to switch tracks in any way or something, you can get a very smooth flow over here. Without trains turning around much, unless they are basically your builder trains. Those should be pretty much the only ones leaving. Occasionally you'll get a resource train doing a turn, but it shouldn't be enough to actually be an issue. And let's build the seat, this time in the other direction. This is what I wanted. And if you've watched the previous video, you've probably already seen me doing exactly this. So let's go in here. All right, there we are. Set up our step 1. And give this the logistics bots, whether you put them in the train to be inserted via inserters or what's happening here. Oh, we don't have all the power poles built yet. Stupid. There you go, that should be all of them. I imagine we have power now. And indeed we do. Right, let's put the train on automatic so that it'll enter the outpost. And same story as before. First thing to do is send for a train with the next loadout. And we want one train. There we go. This train can leave now. And it shouldn't have left. Damn it. All right. I was too slow. All right. I'll just use the next train to unload what I have in my bags here. Okay, actually won't want it to leave, so I can use it. And we're going to build step 2 over here. Right. So step 2 is built, and we need the rails. I keep hitting the wrong button here. Right, just like that. And we will want, let's also activate this train over here. Right, it's very important that it parks at this station before it goes to the depot. And we want solid unloading stations. Did we send the load order? Yeah, okay. And once again, 5 trains. Right. Okay, this will do the job. And we will simply build the prototype for the unloading stations. And while the bots are busy delivering the materials and the train is busy delivering the materials, we're gonna take care of the stacker. Same story as before. This is this time an unload station, iron plate unload station. Iron plate unload, outbound, that's fine. And we are this time in unload stations, so the combinations are already good. Back down to our stations here, and we'll rename them accordingly to the resource. And back up there. Yep, and ready to copy this thing. And when copying, you want to make sure not to hit the curve, right? But you still want the signals. We'll just run across like this. And we want the power pole. It's looking good. And here, we don't want the curve, but we want to go as high as possible without hitting the curve. That way we'll get the signals on the other end and the power pole. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And once again, we finish off with one of these expansion dummy stations. Hit the power pole and set this up as soon as we have some combinators here. There we go. Iron plate unload waypoint. And this is a unloading station, right? So it's already set up correctly. Usually you'd have to adjust the item. Right. So when you're already down here, we can start setting up a different resource. Let's go with some random fluid unloading stations. And we'll just leave that for now because we don't have the materials yet to actually make it happen, to rename the stations and everything. Meanwhile, we're going to take care once again of our, where are they? Here. Of our stations. we go. And what's keeping our trains in the stations for so long is the nuclear fuel. For some reason, the bots appear to be taking forever to deliver them to the trains to get loaded. So what I probably should have done is to reduce this to, let's say, 3. There you go. Trains should dispatch faster now. We can check in the memory how many trains left. 2 of them. Right. So at the start of the video, the trainer was hung up. What had basically happened is that the inserters had filled up the train completely with the items that were supposed to be on the train, but they still had some leftover overflow in here in these chests. And it so happened that every single one of the 6 inserters picked up an item other than the one that was needed in here to finish off the train. That can only happen if you actually have your train completely stocked to the maximum stacks and you get extremely unlucky. I have never seen that happen before, but that showed me that it is possible to get even this system frozen if you get as unlucky as that. The only way to really prevent that ever from happening is to just not use all 40 stacks, and even then, in my opinion, it's not often enough. It doesn't happen often enough to actually not use the final slot. You can avoid it if you want to. I frankly don't really care enough about that very rare chance that might happen. Another option to do it is basically to make these filter inserters also remove items that these inserters are only picking up. The problem with that is that there's another way you can get stuck is if these inserters are holding items that these inserters now want to remove, but the wagon is already full, and there is an item in there that they could remove, but the count of it is lower than the count of the item that the inserters are holding, you have another freeze because the inserters want to remove what these inserters are holding, but they can't drop it into the train because there's no space in the train anymore, because these inserters aren't removing the item that they could remove but won't, because it has a lower value to be removed than what the inserters are holding, right? And it's just an endless circle. So regardless of how you do it, there is a way to get this system stuck. The difference is that the way I have it now, it seems to me that it is much rarer to hit that threshold where all 6 inserters are trying to move items, except for the one in all the chests, except for the one that actually needs to be moved. That seems to me much rarer than the other option. So I'm going to obviously stick with this design, and if I discover that it keeps happening somehow, then I'm going to take care of that. All right. Have we delivered our items? We have. We're going to set the station up. Whoopsies, editor, to send us solid fluid unloading stations. Going to once again remove the things that we don't need. And we're going to send for only one train. In this case, only one train, because fluid stations unload and load the trains much faster than solid stations, right? You can get it down to below 2 seconds per train, below 3 seconds per train. And that's actually what I have done. So my trains do unload and load fluid-wise extremely quickly. What else? We want new stackers for fluids, right? So we need to outbound stacker over here. Match the power poles. That's looking good. Take care of this later once it's built. And an inbound stacker. Same story. Match the power poles. That should be good. I hope. Yep, looking good. Let this be built by bots as soon as rails are available. We might have to send for some extra rails. Yeah. There we go. And we're going to use these for spacing. And on the other side, the same. And some kind of semi-random in here. Kind of like this, maybe. Good enough. All right. Copy this. Is the signal part of it? It is. And we're going to just mirror this. Set it down over here. There we go. That's what we wanted. Yep. Right, and did the bots build the stations up here? They did indeed. So we can rename them to, this is unload and unload station. It's gonna be water. We'll just copy this over. And let's see, it is an unload station, so we can leave these as they are. This is unload for iron, same thing. And as you can see, the artillery train, the defense train, is simply staying here, and it will not unload more items unless the station needs it, right? And something I forgot to do earlier, I forgot to add a final dummy station after that fluid station down there. No problem anyway, because I hadn't named it yet either. There you go. And we want to name you water. Or unload waypoint. That'll work, and it's an unload station. So we're going to have to fix this from iron to water. There we go. And rename this one. And once I'm up there waiting for the train that I'm going to set up now, we'll fix that with infinity pipes. So we have all the items. There are no more materials requested. We are done here. Let's do the trash cycle. And over on the other end, I'm going to need fluid loading. And I leave that for the trash cycle is currently active, so I can't replace this loadout without causing issue. This still has items in it, probably because it ended up leaving the outpost one too early, or was waiting in the stacker. Something like that. It was, I'm guessing what happened is that it was waiting in the stacker to go to the outpost, and I just happened to get it at a bad time or something. But it should be the only train that comes, or it was waiting here, probably. Should be the only train that comes in with materials. The next one, for example, is already empty. There we go. Right, editor mode. We need water pipes. Let's Specifically, we need the full one, the empty ones actually. These should be empty. They are empty. There you go. Station ready to go. And what we're going to do, we're going to run a test run with our solids train. Right? We want to check whether our stations are functional. Do we have any cargoes left? Okay, I'm going to cheat some into existence. And we are going to go to iron plate load. And yes, I just realized what I forgot. It's actually a good thing we're doing this. It will load as expected. And up here I can see that the trash cycle is finished in the other station because it isn't requesting any trains anymore. So now that these aren't lit up, I know that I can just go and do what I need to do, which is going to be a fluid unload train, fluid load, not unload. Once again, modify as needed. Send the load at home and send for one train. And make sure it has a place to come to. Right. And once the train is here, we're actually going to use it to build a roundabout up here, because that's what I forgot earlier. And while we're waiting for the train to deliver the items, we can set up the stackers down here that we need. So this is the inbound side, one of these. There you go. And the outbound side, one of these. Oh. Outbound. There you go. And this one needs replacing. Right. This is going to be water, this is going to be loading. So you're going to need to replace these with the correct item. This is going to be water. The stations will wait while they're being built. And I just heard the chime, so the train that will deliver us the materials for the station down there is just arriving. And we'll need one of this. So this is basically just a train with some materials for train building. Oh, that should come very quickly. And yeah, we don't need this train to stay here actually. There we go. Get the rule. Build the signals. And let's just place them roughly like this. Mirror it. You'd have to do this by hand on both sides if you aren't using mods. But it's not that big of a deal really. Right. That's the stackers ready. And let's go down. So this train is no pathing because there's a roundabout missing up here. The train can't actually leave, can't enter this stacker because it doesn't have a way to actually get to the right lane. You'll fix that as soon as the train that I ordered is here. Which already should have happened. I think I heard the chime earlier. So we need a fluid loading station here. Match the power pole. Build the stations. Yeah. And water this. Water that. And simply copy paste this down here and make sure that the right combinator is there. It's a pretty quick flow. Once you get used to it, it's absolutely no issue and you don't keep forgetting things either. It's not that many steps and they're actually fairly easy to remember once you get used to them. And I'm going to cheat us the pipes that we need. Since this is a loading station, so we need the ones with water actually in them. There we go. Right. So back up here. We have not had the train deliver our items yet. Why? Because it's stuck again. What is it? We need some fuel. Let's check here. This is exactly 40 stacks, right? Let's actually check it out to see what's going on here. I want to go to Pax Depot. Can't see it. Let's just go by hand. Right. There is space. It can drop the item in. It just for whatever reason isn't doing it. If I do this and this, there you go. All of a sudden, we're back in business and the train. I got in just in time. This is a game bug. This is not the fault of the circuitry. There's absolutely nothing I can do about that particular bug at this point in time. Actually, since I've built the station and I've implemented it the way it is now, I've only once ever seen it get stuck, and that happened at the start of this video. Right, we do not want this train to... oh shit, didn't hit it. Alright, then we'll call for an empty train. Empty train, please. Actually, it looks as though we need more. Well, there should be enough rails, I figure. Yeah. Did the fluid loading station has 500 rails? How many does it need? Here, 402. Yeah, ought to be good, really. Right, let's take this train. And let's move it up. Really? Okay. And let's put a roundabout here. And I forgot to... Of course. Hey. There, that's the keybind. Can you please let me in? Thank you very much. Right, get the rails. Get the signals. Power poles. And that might actually chain signals. And lights, and that's it. And we'll just drive it automatically this time. All right. We want to go to outpost setup. And what we're going to do is we're going to call for, actually no, I think we ought to have, no, we need some trains. Right. Let's see. I want 16 trains, I'd say, so 32. And 16 trains times 4, 40, 64. Right. And in here, instead of these, we have 64 tanker wagons. Where was that one? Yeah. Right. So our recess train is doing its rounds. Looks like that's working properly. Right. Oh, we need to take care of that. Right. So we need a, we can therefore just simply build a bunch of the solid trains. Slight problem here, can you, oh. This is gonna be an issue here. All right. Okay, and I have enough materials for one more go. Right, because I ordered for 32 trains. One water train. There you go. These are just simply lacking fuel. And this is also why our train over here is moving, because it's actually delivering the fuel. We aren't getting enough of it. We probably ought to increase 10. 10 is enough. It's taking long enough to load anyway. I don't know why, but bots are very slow with loading rocket fuels into trains. It's got a stack size of 1, of course, so that's part of it, but really it's slow. Alright. Go to water load. Okay. And we are no pathing because of this piece here. Let's take care of that. All right, throwing automotive mode on again. This should just automatic on again, I mean. Should be working fine. Unload the train. And same story again, we need to fix the rail up here. And automatic mode. Yep. It's going back to, we're gonna go full circle. That means that we can actually just use this as is without issues. And something I didn't do this time around that you would see usually, I didn't have to change anything here because it was already the correct setup right from the blueprints. Usually you would have to change these, and then I would suggest you make one train with the right setup, and then you just blueprint that so you never have to do it again, because it frankly is quite annoying having to fix all the names for every stop. I wish you could just edit them like this somehow, but they didn't think that far ahead, I suppose, or didn't figure a nice way to make that happen. All right, once these get the fuel delivered, they'll be on the move. I'm going to abuse the outpost for a second here, and I'm going to, whoops, don't hit me please. Set the other 8 trains up in here. 4 and 8. It might be a slight problem now that I've blocked the artillery train from coming in here and delivering the fuel that I need. If none of these can get any fuel, we're just gonna have to cheat us some. Where are we? Here. Oh, yeah. So what are you guys waiting for? There you go. And we're basically just waiting for the artillery train to deliver enough fuel for all the other stuff that we want. And this is just taking forever. I'm not sure why they are so slow in delivering nuclear fuel. I mean, yes, it's a stack size of 1, but it's still taking too long, in my opinion. All right. We don't need any of the items in here anymore, so we engage the trash cycle. The base will be emptied out, and we will be seeing those items back at base. Right. Oh yeah, I know what's happening. Okay, so what's happening when I activate the trash cycle, the command, the check mark on the global network probably arrives faster than the loadout over here. So basically what happens is when I turn the trash cycle, the train that is already in the station is told to dispatch faster than it gets the new loadout. So the first train is always going to have items in it. I don't see enough reason to fix that. It's just one train. And even then it only applies if there's a train waiting in the station, which admittedly is very likely. These aren't going. Do not put them on automatic. There we go. All right. Let's go into editor mode so we can fly. Let's see what's happening here. We basically have too few trains to really fill up our stations. In that case, we'll just make it happen. There. All right, and a couple of more fluid trains. And more solids. Crap. Okay. These need to be told to leave as well. I think that's enough. Ought to be enough trains. Let's see. Yeah, there we can see clearly. So what you can see in action here are the waypoint stations, right? So every system over here, every single station has space for 3 trains. There are no more than 3 trains allowed inside in the first place. You could fit trains in here, but that would mess up the decentivizer rail signals, so I'm not doing that. Instead, I'm turning this station on and off depending on how many trains are in it. So as soon as this train is done loading, it'll start leaving, and this station will re-enable. See that? And this happens everywhere, and generally speaking the trains do split up properly, because I have also taken care that if a train is in the station, every single train that is there also turns one of these signals red. So if there is 1 train here and 2 trains here, trains want to go even less, really don't want to go to this station. They don't want to go to this station either. They would prefer one of the other stations that are probably empty. So the more trains a station already has, the less likely are trains to enter that station. And if we are in a state where what should happen over here, where all the stations on one bundle are occupied, and therefore all the waypoint stations are red, the dummy station will enable. And I've explained that already. No train can actually enter the dummy station because the rail signals over here are disabled, right? So they just have to wait outside the station until this one re-enables. That allows to as many trains as possible to scoot up, so they are really close to the station when it has when it's free to load the next train. The only reason these are loading so slow now is because there's constantly a new train here, and these tanks fill a lot slower than the train itself can actually be filled. That's why it doesn't seem to go so fast. If the station actually has some time for the tanks to fill up, it goes much faster. Would probably make sense to introduce more fluid loading stations, but don't really need that too much. This is just to show it. And the latch system, I will display that too. Can move, there we go. I'm so used in the map, you can use the mouse, and once you're zoomed in a little bit, suddenly you can't anymore. All right, my eyes. So latch system, of course, for loading station it's turned off, so I can't show you here. But what I can do instead is I can remove these pipes. Let's see. And can actually see it in action. Oh, well, see. As the station gets filled up by trains, you can see it happening really quick now. These lamps will turn red, right? And if you watch here, I can only serve 2 trains in the station now. Once this train comes in and unloads, and this train, no more trains can fill the station, so it'll turn itself off. It's still on, but this train is coming here, and there we go. The station is turned off. No more trains can be served. The ones that have come this way, they will just pass through the station now and go back to the loading station and then wait here. Right. So this is the next part of the stations. If in one bundle all the stations are turned off because they're unavailable, thereby also all their waypoint stations are turned off, the dummy station will not re-enable. Right. The idea is that I don't want trains to come this way and wait at the station if the stations themselves are actually disabled. What happens instead is that the trains gather up at these stations that are now available. These outbound stacker stations enable whenever... What did that one leave? Oh, it's going back to the input. Just need to wait a moment for trains to... Are these guys just skipping these stations? What the hell? What's happening here? Maybe... Stop, let me click you. Alright, let's do it down here. Outbound waypoint stations. No, wait, that's water load, not unload. I think I forgot to rename these. I imagine that's... Yeah, alright. So this is a load station. Water load outbound. There we go. Fix that up. Right. And now trains should start resting at these as soon. Yeah, it's starting now. The train that just passed still already basically had considered the station's past, or was on the way back to the loading station. So because all the unloader stations for water are currently turned off because they can't serve any trains anymore, only when that is the case, then will these stations here enable these outbound stacker stations. That means that the trains have a place to go, right? They're not passing in the middle of nowhere, and neither are they clogging up the station. Like, as many trains as possible can still get served by this station, and they will simply gather up here along the output. And this is why you don't want to mix resources in one stacker, unless it's extremely low throughput and you have like barely any trains moving. Then you could maybe make it work. But generally speaking, a stacker should only ever serve one kind of resource, and the same is true for the trains, obviously, and the same is true for the stations. Yeah. All right, so this video has been going on a while. We're about an hour in. As you're building the rail network, you may want to take care to turn some of the chain signals into rail signals. Might make sense here, for example. Right, might make sense here. because the trains can't actually get in the way of each other. No train is going to endlessly circle here, right? This is the end of the line. There's no train that's going to drive in circles here. Therefore, you can just turn them all into rail signals and keep the trains from braking ever. They just should stay accelerating as much as possible. The same is true for this over here. Let's turn that all into rail signals. Here we don't want to do that, but we can turn some of these into rail signals, right? Here there's no way to the right, so I don't care what's happening here. And we actually want to turn these into rail signals, right? And here there might be some turning if a train is leaving the depot and I've sent it back all of a sudden. It might need to turn here and go back in, so we're not gonna change anything over here with the trains coming in, right? And any train that's coming around here, I want to wait here for this train to clear, because the only trains that are going to go over this way are basically my builder trains, and except for this train, what I don't know what it's doing. Weird. I had probably some strange path penalty that applied there in that moment. One more thing, right? The sorting of your stations or your resources. So I've gone and I've put iron plates as the first bundle of stations here. Therefore, I will also put them as the first bundle of stations here. The why is pretty important, because I've designed the railway system in such a way that a train that leaves one stacker has to make space for a train that leaves the next stacker, right? There's over here, there's a system. If this chain signal is red or yellow, this rail signal for these rails is turned red. So trains cannot go this way, they have to go this way. And this chain signal actually reads all the way back along the track to this signal. Any train that is here will cause all the chain signals that are reading backwards to turn red. Therefore this chain signal reads red, therefore this is turned red, and no train coming out of this stacker can go straight now. If I give this thing the pipes back, we can also watch in action how the tanks are emptying, right? And once we can serve, what do we have here? Once you can serve at least 5 trains, right? This is the upper limit. Once you can serve at least 5 trains, the station will turn itself back on. Watch this light. This one tells you whether the station is turned on or off. Almost. There we go. The station has re-enabled, which means all of a sudden these are turned off, these waypoint stations, and all of a sudden the trains have a place to go back to. And as you can see, these trains down here are nicely making space for those accelerating out of the stacker. This is a smooth flow. Trains are going around here. And next, why I'm ordering the stations in a particular way, or I'm keeping to the same ordering in every station, is the idea that those that leave the stacker on the outside lane do want to enter a stacker from the outside lane, right? Whereas those that leave a stacker on the inside lane go around and they want to enter once again from the inside lane. Okay, they're switching over here, obviously, right? But they're basically sticking to the last possible moment to the inside lane. And that's how you create a pretty smooth train of flow of trains, especially in high traffic. And this is not even particularly high traffic, right? I have tried this system with I think it was 8 as many, so 16 stations, and I didn't have any traffic jams unless I messed up the system purposely, right? Trains always have a place to go to. They always split up properly, and if you use the lanes accordingly and you don't stack too many of these outposts onto the same main line, basically. So if I want to have more outposts, it would be a good idea to maybe start a train system over here instead, right? let's say I have another outpost that I want to build here. It might be a good idea not to continue going over here and then building out this way. It might be a good idea to maybe go around the other side and making sure that I try and split up my traffic across the net as much as possible. And that's pretty much all I have to say about how to use the system. You've seen me use the blueprints. There are a couple of weird blueprints in here. If you, for example, this one could be used as, so this one basically just gathers resources, items flow in here, and you can set a filter of what you want it to be. It flows in and it gets put into the logistics chests over here. This is pretty nice, maybe if you want to be able to ferry raw materials to yourself. So you just put the item cache there and you feed it from your main bus or whatever you have, or other trains. And you have them available in the depot if you need to send yourself, I don't know, maybe blue chips or something, right? Right, so that's pretty much it. If it's of interest, for example, you can see here, this station has no train in it, so the train has gone back to base to most likely get nuclear fuel. But this station is still disabled, and that's because the train that's supposed to go in there, right, only just arrives, sends its ID back to the base, and now it has enabled. Whereas the train that was just in here has left and has actually gone back to its own station. It did not go into the wrong station. It came out of the station, had already calculated that it needs to enter this outpost because the other one was still disabled. And that's basically how I ensure that trains that I want to park in their outpost stay in their outpost as much as possible. In this case, they're just moving that much because they keep needing to refuel stations, right? Usually you'd have not just 10, but you'd have, I don't know, a full wagon load or something just delivering items to the stations, and then that would be it. Okay, I think that, so right now both of these are enabled. Let's see what's happening. Is this the right train or is it the wrong train? It was the right train because the station disabled. If the wrong train goes in here, the station doesn't disable itself. It stays a valid target for all the other trains that are probably looking for the station. So there's a high likelihood that the right train is going to look to drive into the station. And only when the right train is in here, then the station will disable, sending all the other trains looking for their own station. Okay, well, thank you for watching this quick demonstration. The video has gone for 1 hour and 20 minutes. I thank you for watching. Please leave a comment if you have any questions. I'm more than willing to answer. Or if you have any suggestions on things you would like to improve. Bye.